evening and welcome to our third PUSD Young Alumni Roundtable for a discussion for graduates who have chosen STEM careers. So I'm Susan Frediani. I am an instructional coach and a project coordinator for Plumas Unified School District, and I'm really excited to be here this evening interviewing 3 graduates from PUSD schools who have gone into STEM careers. So I'm going to go ahead and ask them to introduce themselves and share a couple of the perks of their current careers after they tell us what they do. So Justin, I'm going to go ahead and start with you, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Frediani. My name is Justin Sipe. I graduated in 2009 from Quincy High School. And ironically, I got a degree in mechanical engineering and utilized very little of my degree in my current position. However, I do a lot of engineering. So we build gym equipment, structures, obstacle courses, fitness equipment, any sort of like structural rigging you might see in like a gymnasium or out on a, if you go to like, if you've seen like the Spartan games or any of these unique obstacle course challenges, we basically build all of the equipment that they use to complete those tasks and those challenges. And I graduated from UNR in 2015 and received a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering.
So I thought all that equipment just showed up. I never thought about people building it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then behind the scenes, like what you have to do. So all that is modeled digitally. We use SolidWorks, and then we use some really cool technology. There's a item called a tube laser, where it basically can take any sort of tubing and it cuts it to very precise measurements on 5 different axes. So we use all sorts of cool bending, forming, welding, lasers, just about anything you can imagine. It's all behind the scenes, and essentially it's whatever you would see like a large steel building. That's what we're doing, but on a very different scale. We use all that same equipment, and we've built projects that are 40 feet tall that are out in Texas, and our soldiers are using those to train and prepare before they deploy. Or we've built stuff here for UNR, like a local fitness gym, CrossFit rig that we did there, and we will pretty much do anything. I mean, that's kind of the Beaver Fit motto is if you can dream it, we can build it. So
great. Thanks, Justin. Super interesting. Kelsey, if you could go next, please.
Yeah, my name's Kelsey Nelson, formerly Kelsey Michael. I graduated from Portola High School in 2006. I went to a community college first, and then I went to UC Santa Cruz, and then got my bachelor's degree in applied physics. And then after that, I went to UNR and got my master's degree in mechanical engineering. I currently work at Hamilton Company in Reno. We build automated medical equipment. So I basically work on robots to handle liquid. This last year has been pretty interesting because our business has boomed in light of COVID. We produce a lot of the equipment, we manufacture a lot of the equipment that's used for not only testing for the virus, but also developing vaccines. COVID is a very relevant thing to use right now for an example, but we do for many medical applications. So personally, I am a senior mechanical engineer, and I work mostly on a 7-axis robot that moves around plates. Sometimes it's kind of hard to describe what I'm working on, but in movies, sometimes you see in a lab somewhere, they have these long pointed needles that are picking up liquid, and they're doing some sort of very scientific experiment. And those machines are basically what I work on.
Okay, and so you've.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Frediani.
No, go ahead, Justin.
Ironically, I worked at Hamilton Company for 4 years, about 4 years ago. So, anyway, different story. Sorry.
Crazy.
To
but you've combined engineering and medicine, and I think that's really interesting because I never even thought of those two things combining. So very interesting. Did you know it? You never met though, the two of you? No,
I don't believe so. No, but robots. I mean, it was pretty exciting stuff too. So
Yeah, I've been there for 7 years. So, but there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I think right now there's something like 600 or 700 employees in our Reno
Okay.
campus. So there's lots of people that I don't know.
Okay, Anthony.
Right. Yeah, my name is Anthony Braddock. I graduated from Quincy High School in 2010. Right now I work at Facebook. I've been here for about two to 3 years. Most of my team's work involves dealing with bad actors on Facebook and Instagram. So whenever there's problems with harassment or impersonation or things like that, people in my role try to build out automations to deal with those bad actors and try to reduce the amount of harm that they're able to do on the platform. I actually studied physics in college, but ended up not really doing quite so much with it after graduation, but eventually got into computer science and programming, and that's 99% of what I do nowadays.
So what I think is very interesting here is all three of you have already touched a little bit on your paths, but I'd like to hear kind of more specific information. So, you know, in high school, did you ever see yourself where you are now? I mean, what was the path that you took, including did you take any time off? Did you, work in other areas, that sort of thing? So, Anthony, since you mentioned the physics piece there, I'm going to go ahead and start with you with this question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to give a shout out to Mr. Hintz. His physics class is the main reason that I ended up getting into physics, and I absolutely loved everything about it. Ended up doing more research into astronomy and astrophysics, but at the same time started doing a lot of programming on the side and taking programming classes at the college. And so when I realized that a lot of the physics roles later on in life are more research dependent, I was more interested in working on products similar to the tech companies that were in the area. And I really enjoyed programming a lot. So I started getting into that more and more, built out sort of iOS programming skills, and then delved deeper into more of the backend server programming. And after that, got a job at Google helping with their movies and TV team. And then from there, jumped over to here, to where I'm doing a lot of data work and a lot of Python and SQL coding.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kelsey, how about you?
Yeah, I similar for me. I had a great teacher at Portola High School, Mr. Womack. He kind of pushed me to major in physics. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So that's what I did. Physics was great. I learned a lot of things, but I didn't really want to go into teaching, which is typically what you do with a physics degree. You get a PhD and teach. So I tried to find a job for a little bit after I got my bachelor's. I guess I also started out at a community college for 2 years, and then went to a university. It took me 2.5 years to get my bachelor's degree. And then I took probably like 6 months off trying to find a job. And when I couldn't find one, I decided to go to get my master's degree. And I really liked mechanical engineering. It seemed like, kind of a broad subject to major in. I like building things. So then I majored in that. I don't know that I thought I'd be doing what I was doing, similar to you. I just didn't really know that robots and medicine really went together very much, or that was even a thing I'd be interested in. But I really like where I'm at, and I think it's challenging and a great position.
Great, thank you. Justin.
I'll shout out to Mr. Hintz and also to Mr. Randy Kelsch. I think auto shop for me was one area where I really realized I enjoyed turning wrenches, but I didn't necessarily want to do that for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the fun would be in designing the products versus actually doing the work on them. It would get a little bit, mundane to do the same thing every day, in my opinion. So I wanted to be the guy that was actually designing the new cool technology. And then on the weekends and, just for fun, I can go out to the garage and tinker and work on the Jeep, or, do some welding and fabrication work. But it's not my day in, day out job. I do all that design work first, and then I've got that as an outlet. For me, I definitely didn't realize mechanical engineering was where I would end up. I took a year off. I went to Chile. I kind of played around for a little bit, and I just always knew that I was mechanically inclined. Did very well on the ASVAB. I did take that as well. I considered a career in military, but I went to UNR, and UNR had a really good mechanical engineering program. It's very hands-on. It's not like some of the other programs that are more theoretical. We got to actually build Lego robots using NXTs, and we got to build hovercrafts. We got to use the machine shop. We got to do some really cool stuff, and we got to build some cool products. And from there, I just realized that mechanical engineering was where I wanted to stay. So I actually didn't switch majors, and graduated with my mechanical engineering degree, and then just kind of ended up here at Beaverfit just because the people, the culture, and what we do. I mean, we don't ever really do the same thing day in, day out. It's new, it's exciting, it's fun. There's a lot of challenges, but it's just a really great group of people that are all really solution oriented. So it's really refreshing to work with other people of that same mindset.
It sounds like none of you ever look at the clock and see that like the day is going slowly. It sounds like it's just really exciting and fun and different every single day.
I think we all probably still have those days, but
Okay, all right.
On the whole, it's probably
So I'd like you to think back just about yourselves as high school students. So if you could just let me know kind of just what your preparation was, or and I know some of you have mentioned teachers, and Kelsey, it probably won't surprise you that Mr. Womack is definitely getting shout outs from the Portola folks there. He's definitely influenced a lot of students. But really what was impactful for you at that point that helped prepare you for maybe not necessarily this specific career, but gave you that foundation to move into even something that you weren't necessarily thinking of at the time. So if you can maybe sort of flash back and think about what was that preparation that maybe stands out for you looking back. So Justin, I'm going to start with you on that one.
I think on my end, I did a senior project with Mr. Hopman, and that really made me finalize that I wanted to pursue a degree in mechanical engineering, excuse me. He was a pilot and a mechanic, but also a mechanical engineer. And so he was the one that kind of took me under his wing senior year of high school, and really helped me see that, turning wrenches is so much fun, but being the guy that actually designs that and can run all the finite element analysis, which is CAD lingo for basically simulations on a computer to see if something will fail or not. But that is the guy that, that's where you can really have a lot of fun. You can do different cool things. You can think of different designs that nobody's even thought of before. And so we looked at that in top field dragsters, and we looked at that concept applied to airplanes. And he really helped kind of steer me towards that mechanical engineering path. So I'm really grateful for his expertise there.
Great. So it sounds like it was really a mentor type of an influence.
Absolutely.
Right,
And it was also, I mean, my dad had a lot to do with it as well. Just he was going to school at UC Davis, and he actually told me he got to a weed out class. It was basically statics, and he decided to drop engineering as his degree, and pursued a degree in geology. And he told me that was something he'd always regretted. So when I went to UNR, I went to statics, and I knew that was a weed out or a dropout class, kind of a thing where they were really trying to make sure that everybody at that point realized what they were trying to do with that degree. And, so I knew I needed to push and get past that in order to move on. And, I was really glad that he had that experience and was able to tell me that, to keep going, to keep pushing. If something's your passion, don't just give up on it easily because people say it's too hard. I mean, if you're passionate about something, you should be able to just continue to fight, and you'll eventually achieve what you're passionate about. So that was really another big helpful moment for me, because there's been a lot of little. I had to retake a couple of classes at UNR. Calculus 2, all that theoretical calculus that really they're like, hey, this is this theoretical series that goes to infinity, but it eventually reaches a theoretical point. What is that point? And I'm like, well, those two kind of contradict. I'm a, drawn in a line, kind of draw a line in the sand, kind of an engineer. I don't necessarily like to deal in the gray area. So I did have to retake a couple classes, and I just kept thinking of that when I was doing that. I was so passionate about design work. I really wanted to get that.
And I really appreciate hearing that, because again, those kinds of obstacles, it's just, they're there, but it's in the overcoming, right? That, and the pressing forward.
Absolutely. And I mean, the other thing is, I think all of us, I'm not sorry to speak for you, Kelsey, but I think Anthony and I were both very good students in high school. And I think, especially to me, some of the college courses came at a little bit of a shock. We had that small little tight-knit classroom feel growing up in a small town. And then I got into a lecture hall with 400 people. And it was like the teacher really didn't have that same level of, the teacher cared about all the different students, but you didn't get to know your teacher like you did in a small town and really want to make that good impression. So it was really quite challenging to kind of figure out how that worked. And so I started going to visit with TAs and some of the smaller lecture halls. I mean, a lot of times there's little study groups, 30 or so people. And so that helped a lot to try to build that confidence back up after it started to get torn down a little bit.
Great. Thanks, Justin. So Kelsey, I'm going to go ahead and ask you next, just, maybe a little bit what really was impactful as you moved forward.
Yeah, I was similar to Justin. I was a good student, but and I had pretty terrible study habits, but Mr. Womack was another good, really mentor, and he pushed me and pushed several people in our class to do things that were kind of out of our comfort zone. We took a second year physics course. He taught a computer programming class that he started just for us. He really tried hard to push us out of our comfort zones and make us all take the AP exams. And, after I took those exams, I was like, oh, I did terrible. I failed them. I don't know. And then I got them back and I did really well. So it was just kind of a boost of confidence that even if I don't know what I'm doing really right now, like I can just step through it and make my way through and it'll work out. For me, just touching on what Justin said too, I went to a community college first, and it's a totally different atmosphere at a community college. Even though I was at a big community college, the class sizes were less than 30 students, and you do get to know your teachers. And I think that was really beneficial for me, especially because I had poor study habits. I did really well in high school, but I didn't have to study, so I didn't learn those things. And in college, that did kind of slap me in the face. You need to figure this out. And but yeah, in high school, I think Mr. Womack was really a big push for that. Also, I think just my kind of aptitude is just to continue doing things and work hard and do something with myself. I can't really sit, even now, I can't really sit still and not do anything. I got to be doing something all the time. So yeah, I think in high school, it was really just Mr. Womack mostly.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Anthony, what about you? Just things that were impactful for you. You already mentioned that you were a good student through high school, but again, what do you remember most that propelled you forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of science in general, like I said, Mr. Ince was really influential, but also Mr. Gruner. I think they had this passion for science and learning, and that's something that they passed along to their students. And that's sort of what opened up the ideas of, oh, this is something that could be fascinating, that I can look into down the line, that I can apply to my career. One other thing that may be fairly small, but it was actually really influential, was at a certain point, I forget which class I was in, but we programmed our graphing calculators to do quadratic formulas. And I was just blown away that you could write this kind of script in automation in a calculator. And it was really simple as some sort of basic script, but that kind of opened my eyes of, wow, all these tools are around us that we can take advantage of and set up systematically and make solutions for ourselves to make our lives easier. And that's sort of, down the line, I felt more and more interested in that kind of stuff. And it eventually got me here.
I love that one moment like that is something that you remember so well, you know. It's like
If I had to
that's
type out the quadratic formula one more time.
right. So the next question that I have for you is, what role do communication skills play in your career? So Kelsey, I'd like to ask you that question first.
Communication is huge. You know, I don't necessarily talk with customers, but I do go to, I have to talk with coworkers, my boss. You know, I've been at Hamilton for 7 years, and just recently I was chosen to manage the electrical engineering group, and nobody applied for this. And so when I asked later, like, how was I chosen for this? There's a combination, I think, of verbal and nonverbal communication that has happened. People that I didn't ever really talk to, but just noticed what I was doing, saw how hard I was working, noticed that I get along with most people, that I can communicate what I'm working on, kind of pushed them to pick me to manage this group. And it was kind of a surprise for me, but I think communication is super important in general. If you can't communicate with the people around you, your bosses, or if you're in customer service, if you can't communicate with customers, there's always going to be kind of a problem. Right now, especially in this day and age, I think text messaging and emails have made that kind of difficult sometimes. I know personally, I have to go through and reread emails and text messages just to make sure they don't sound like they're coming across, you know, kind of rude or you know, maybe harsh or something. So I think just knowing that I need to work on those things sometimes, or that keeping them in the back of my head, has helped propel me in my career.
And Kelsey, do you work mostly by yourself or with groups?
It right now, especially, part of my job is managing another group, so I have to work with them a lot. But in some of my other projects that I've worked on, sometimes it's by myself, sometimes it is in a bigger group. Last year, Hamilton sent me to South Korea, and they also sent me to Barcelona to talk with other customers. And so, like, in those senses, especially, I'm kind of an ambassador for the company, and I really need to be on my best behavior. But there's definitely both. Sometimes I'm working with groups, we're working on a big project, I'm this segment, this person's another segment. And sometimes it's just me, where I'm kind of the main person for this particular project working on it.
The travel sounds like a perk.
Yeah.
Right. And so Anthony and Justin, as you both respond to this question, I would also like to hear if you tend to work solo more or within groups as well. So again, what role do those communication skills play in your career? Anthony, I'll go with you next.
Gotcha. So it's very essential, because sort of the spread of Facebook and Instagram, because it's just huge tools, huge company. It's really essential to be able to work together with other teams, work with people that manage different tools, different projects within the company. You've got to be able to work with project managers, with program managers, with the engineers, to be able to come together to push a product, push a change, make a policy update. So it's absolutely essential to be able to work across teams and have that level of communication. Generally, everyone I work with, they're very friendly and very wonderful and always supportive in this kind of cross-functional team, you know, sort of working together. In terms of like working alone versus groups, we do work a lot with different groups across different teams, but generally a lot of the projects that I work on, it's fairly autonomous work. So I'm able to take the work, go off and do whatever I need to do, and reach out and work with different teams only when I need to.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Justin.
So I started at Beaverfit when there were about 15 people. And I think, so communication is absolutely key. At that point, I was communicating more with individuals. And then as the company's grown, I've found myself more in a managerial role. And that communication is still essential, but it's also developed, it's evolved. You know, now we're communicating with department heads, we're communicating with customers, we're communicating with, you know, third-party vendors, people that are helping us with different things. So it's absolutely an essential skill, and it's actually one that I'm still, learning on a day-to-day basis. And I think to Kelsey's point, email and texting really has had an impact on communication skills. I mean, gone are the days of being able to pick up your phone or just walk outside and talk to somebody and actually explain what you need. And it seems like everybody seems to get so defensive and sees these emails or text messages and feels that they're being, placed, the blame is going to be placed on them. And being able to effectively communicate is really crucial in all of our jobs.
Okay. All right, thank you. So my next question, what does the future hold for those that are going into your lines of work, just innovations, job opportunities, that sort of thing? So do you have any thoughts on that? Kelsey, I'll go ahead and ask you first.
Yeah, so I think for me, especially in this pandemic, there's huge opportunities at my company in particular, and there's also kind of a growing demand for more automated medical testing equipment. And I don't foresee that going away anytime soon. We make huge advances in medicine, huge advances in testing, and it's all kind of related to the equipment you have to use for it. So my industry in particular right now is booming. I think that'll probably slow down again a little bit, but even before the pandemic, we were a pretty big company, doing really well. And it's just kind of the nature of technology right now. I think medical stuff is big and growing.
Right. Thank you, Justin.
I mean, we're excited for the future. BeaverFit is 100% US made. We build all the steel here for all of our lockers, and then we're actually branching out and we're procuring gym equipment and other accessories like barbells, bumper plates, things like that. And we're having them made here in the US as well to try to fill that demand. But we're also seeing all sorts of cool new areas where, like there's a container bar that opened up here in Reno called the Eddy. And we've started doing container structures. We deal with a lot of shipping containers. So we build training facilities. We build fire towers where you can basically do a down building trainer inside of a shipping container. And we're finding that that's a really easy way to take something that essentially is a throwaway. I mean, it's cheaper to throw away a container than it is to try to get it, to send it back to China to put new goods in and ship it back. So we're able to use something that is otherwise obsolete. So it's pretty exciting. And we're actually now like the #1 kettlebell manufacturer in the United States. So we're larger than Rogue, larger than Sornex. And it's pretty cool to be at the forefront of fitness.
Absolutely.
And we're working with all sorts of new partners too. So we're excited to get out there.
I can feel that excitement, Justin. It's like it's exuding. Anthony, what about you?
Yeah, the demand for people in STEM in these types of companies is only going to grow more now with the amount of data that's out there and the amount of sort of people power that's needed in order to support this and do large scale analysis. We're only going to need more and more people. One quick comment generally about sort of the big tech companies, so Facebook and Google, you may only sort of associate software engineering with these companies, but they have a widespread variety of STEM people that they are always in need of. They need mechanical engineers. They need medical doctors to do medical research. They need hardware engineers. They need wireless engineers. They need optic engineers. They need all these different people in STEM fields that come together to work on these different products. So it's only going to be more and more varying and more in demand.
Should I put in my application?
Come on down. We would love you.
English teacher wanted. Okay, this is my final question for all of you. What would you say to the high school students that really just don't see an open path to your field? They think about where each of you is sitting today and they see barriers for themselves. What would you say to those students? Justin, I'll start with you.
I think the first thing would be don't give up. There's so many programs out there, whether it's financial need, there's grants, there's scholarships, there's different avenues such as that, or there's we have TMCC local here in Reno, and I actually took some courses at TMCC before going to UNR as well, just because of cost. I mean, it was more expensive to go to do those classes at UNR. But if it's something you're passionate about, don't let anyone tell you no. and do what you can to make sure that you're going to achieve that goal. Because you know, my dad told me, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's exactly where we're at here at Beaverfit. I mean, I work with basically a family of guys. There's like 100 people now, so I can't just say it's just a family. There's a lot of gals here too, but it is a fun place to work, and everybody has each other's backs. We always go, we do group workouts during lunchtime, or we'll go on a trail run, or we'll do, you know, things that you would never even expect an engineering manager or a company to do as a whole. We have quite a cool culture. So if you're passionate about you know, the STEM field, don't give up and just push through, because you can make it. You'll find a way to do it.
Thank you, Justin. Kelsey, I'll ask you next.
I would say just because you can't see an opening or a path forward doesn't mean it's not there. There's so many opportunities for everything. I went on a path that I did not predict, that I did not think would happen. And I am in a position that I didn't even think I would have. So, you know, doors may close, but other doors may open, and you can, I think, usually create your own opportunities if they're not there. Also, there are plenty of people that have big jobs in this world that were not given, you know, told how to do it or given their opportunities. They basically created them themselves. And so I think even if you can't find a path, there's one there. You just got to keep looking.
Thank you. Anthony.
Yeah, there was a mindset that I had in high school that for STEM fields, you had to be born smart or born brilliant or somehow know better than everybody else, and only the top 1% would be able to do something. But it's just not the case. There's such a variety of things you can do, and there's so much demand for it. It's really achievable, and something that I think a lot of people would really enjoy if they are interested in the field. I think they should definitely give it a go.
I really appreciate the three of you spending the time that you have spent with us tonight. I know that our students are all in for a treat in hearing your stories and learning from them. So again, I'm really proud that you are graduates of PUSD. I, you know, just love our district so much, and I'm just really, really excited to see what you've gone out into the world and what you've done. And honestly, maybe I'm going to be thinking about a career change at this point in time, right? Anthony, you've got me going on that. So thank you all so much. And I'm just very grateful, and we will be hoping that students will reach out and possibly want a little bit more information from you. So we'll stay in touch, and have a great evening.